U.S. President Donald Trump has urged everyone involved in efforts to end the Gaza war to move fast as mediators met in Egypt for indirect peace talks between Hamas and Israel. Hamas delegation was headed by Chief Negotiator Khalil al-Hayya, U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, Trump's sons-in-law Jared Kushner, and Qatari Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman al-Thani attended the talks. Hamas' decision to enter the talks without explicit conditions is seen as a recognition of its limited leverage after nearly 3 years of war. The movement agreed to some parts of a 20-point U.S. peace plan, including freeing hostages and handing over Gaza governance to Palestinian technocrats. Hamas said it had agreed to release all Israeli hostages, alive or dead, as long as the field conditions for the exchange are met, and expressed willingness to negotiate through mediators on Trump's plan for peace in the Middle East. In a statement, the group affirmed its readiness to immediately enter into negotiations through the mediators to discuss details of the agreement, and renewed its agreement to hand over the administration of Gaza Strip to Palestinian technocrats based on Palestinian national consensus and Arab and Islamic support. Trump welcomed Hamas' statement and stressed that Israel must immediately stop bombing Gaza Strip to get hostages out safely. A senior Palestinian official said Egyptian, Qatari, and Turkish mediators played a major role in convincing Hamas to tone down its objections and to leave contentious points such as the fate of its weapons, Gaza post-war governance, and its other concerns for negotiation table. Trump said he was told that the first phase should be completed this week, adding that time is of essence or massive bloodshed will follow. For his part, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said bombing needed to stop to facilitate a hostage release. However, Israel continued air strikes and tank fire, killing Palestinians and destroying a number of residential buildings in Gaza City. The 20-point plan proposes an immediate end to fighting and the release of 48 hostages, only 20 of whom are thought to be alive, in exchange for hundreds of detained Gazans. The U.S. President said Israel had agreed to an initial withdrawal line in Gaza. In reaction, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas welcomed Trump's plan and praised his efforts to end the war. Also, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres welcomed Hamas' response and urged all parties to seize the opportunity to bring the tragic conflict in Gaza to an end. Egypt, Qatar, Jordan, and Turkey welcomed the agreement as Trump thanked peace brokers for helping him put the conflicting sides together. The proposal also received support from Europe, with countries that had recently defied Washington by formally recognizing Palestinian statehood welcoming the initiative. As diplomatic efforts proceed, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is widening amid relentless warfare, systematic violations, and a deeply troubling silence from much of the international community. Human rights organizations have now shed light on the scale of suffering, offering clear evidence of deliberate actions taken by Israeli occupation to starve, punish, and kill innocent civilians. Over the past 3 years, Gaza Strip has endured one of the most devastating periods in its history.
Welcome back, our dear viewers. As we were talking, the indirect talks between Hamas and the Israeli delegations are continuing in Egypt's Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, based on U.S. President Donald Trump's plan. And we are very much delighted to be joined here in the studio by Ms. Haneen Abu Shanab, member of the General Union of Palestinian Women in Cairo, to shed light on the issue. Thank you so much, Ms. Haneen, for joining us for tonight.
Thank you, always a pleasure.
Indeed, very important developments, which is the indirect talks taking place in the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh between a delegation from Hamas and a delegation from Israel to see, hear and discuss the U.S. President Donald Trump's plan for peace. What's your take on the outcome of the delegation, and today is the second day of the talks?
Absolutely. I'm thrilled. Last time I was here, we talked about hopefully next time it's in positive setup. So we are in the next time, and this is the positive setup. Also, I don't know how ironic it is. Today is the 7th of October. Again, it's an opposite of emotions.
2 years from the beginning of
the genocide. Of course, the very, very horrific and inhumane on all levels. But also, it's the second day after the 6th of October. Of course, the major victory not only for the Egyptian people or the Egyptian land, but for the whole Arab nation as a whole. Of course, it's a pride for all. So from that, we were hoping that fire actually comes out of ashes. It's not just destruction, or it's not just despair. We're hoping for the positivity to come out from this saddening environment that we're all in. Needless to say, the efforts did not go in waste. Of course, all of this, not solely, of course, Egyptian, but it's mostly Egyptian effort. Mainly diplomatic, of course, also political nonetheless. The humanitarian approaches, the political and diplomatic missions, speeches, the President, Mr. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, spared no chance, not himself nor the whole staff, from the Minister of Foreign Affairs all the way to all the diplomatic missions. They've always seized every opportunity available to speak about the Palestinian cause, the Palestinian oppression that they're undergoing, and they even bring back whatever talks to the Egyptian land. Every discussion done internationally is brought back to the capital of peace, Egypt, in Cairo, of course.
Ms. Haneen, the second day of negotiations is focusing mainly on the proposed plan by U.S. President Donald Trump that aims to bring about an end to the war in the Gaza Strip. How do you see the 20 articles or 20 points of that peace plan?
Of course, as any negotiation that takes place, every party wants the best for themselves.
Of course.
So, but again, the tactical approach towards this negotiation, dividing it into two days, I think an extension also is due to tomorrow.
Yes.
So the duration is elongated, of course, and even today it took them around 4 hours of discussions between the two sides. Patience is what's dominating the pace. The wisdom of the Egyptian leadership, of course, along with the mediators, of course, from Qatar and the U.S. They're all trying to maximize the gains for the bigger picture, for the whole region, not just the Palestinians, neither for the Israelis, because what's been happening in the Gaza Strip is not only impacting or affecting the Palestinians alone. It's been spreading. Of course, Lebanon had a share, Syria had a share, Jordan is very conservative about what's happening, Egypt, of course. So the whole region is actually worried about the consequences of such inflammation in the region. So everyone's trying to push for the success of this plan. Today has been very successful, alhamdulillah. Hopefully the conclusion will be very positive. You can see the tweets from Trump. He's very positive. Of course, he's known for his public opinion and the public propaganda, but again, it also reflects, because otherwise his advisories wouldn't have arrived today if it weren't positive in the approach of his, let's say, in his favor.
Yes.
He wants peace.
Indeed. He wants Nobel Peace Prize, indeed. Yes. The first session actually that took place witnessed an agreement to lay down a roadmap for the release of hostages and for a ceasefire, as well as the two parties agreed on most of the first term. How do you see the agreement on the release of hostages and the ceasefire?
Of course, the ceasefire is the most important of all the points, because every minute actually that passes by, we're losing hundreds of lives. You have seen over the past 48 hours, it's almost 100 injuries, if not deaths, on the Palestinian ground. So every minute counts. It's not just the firing that's causing casualties, but also the lack of food and the lack of
the entry
clean
of
water.
humanitarian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So literally every second actually makes a difference in the lives of the Palestinian people, and of course on the Israeli territory as well. We can always see they're not really settled. They're not very happy with what's happening. And the involvement of Netanyahu, although he's not primarily present in the negotiations, but he's also trying to contain the inflaming Bardo situation at his land as well. His people are not very pleased. So we are trying to cease fire immediately because this is very vital. The second point is the release of hostages on both ends, of course. Negotiations on the names, of course, as always. They're negotiating the list, the names in particular. The top names that will always be in every Palestinian demand. Barghouti and, of course, Saadat. They are the longest imprisoned Palestinian, of course. So they will keep pushing. Israel will keep opposing. However, we should reach success eventually by the end of it. All parties are pushing towards the success of this, and we can see goodwill on both ends, Palestinian as well as the Israelis. They both want this to end.
Yes, indeed. Still, Ms. Haneen, many uncertainties are remaining concerning the demand that Hamas disarm and the future governance of the Strip. How do you see the negotiations could find a way out for these two critical issues?
Hamas leading the Gaza Strip has always been Israel's excuse for any
attack or any aggression.
Of course.
Indeed.
I will not indulge or elaborate on this. We can keep it to a different discussion because today we're focusing on the positivity of things. So a one Palestinian nation is what we've always been speaking, whether in the Arab talks or even the regional as well. Mr. Mahmoud Abbas, of course, he was very clear on this from day one. He was always welcoming all Palestinians to come to the Palestinian government, for all people to be under the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Authority, of course, organization. The technocrats or the democratic approach towards the government that should be, of course, formalized is again a very loud and clear direction of the Palestinian people, not just the Arab as a whole. We want democratization. We want a very how can we say, for the whole population to be present, for the whole, we're not just speaking about politicians, but we're also including the academic people. We're also including the people who have the on-hands experience, because we're speaking about reconstruction of a whole, a big piece actually of the Palestinian land. We're also speaking about, it's not just Gaza, we also want something for the West Bank as well. So the vision is futuristic. We're not just speaking short term, but of course the immediate ceasefire and the exchange of hostages is for the short term. But we're also discussing long term. I would believe in the coming, inshallah, 24 hours, the finalization of this shall be, inshallah, concluded very positively.
From your point of view, what are the positive points in the U.S. President Donald Trump's peace plan as acknowledged by Egypt and the mediators, and what are, from your point of view as well, the most controversial or problematic points that would maybe be a problem in the negotiations?
Of course, we're always, we're seeing the goodwill of both, or all actually, parties involved in the negotiations. However, the devil lies in the details, as we say. On paper, everything looks good, everything looks very optimistic and very promising. However, when it comes to the details of the implementation, the accountability of all people involved is always a concern. Throughout the years, we always see them looking for vulnerabilities or a way out of actually being accountable. There should be, since we're speaking about Palestinian sovereignty over their land, we should also see an impartial, how can we say, support or enablement for this power to be actually imposed on ground. So the involvement of the Egyptian, of course, it's always led by Egypt. These parties, whether it's the UN officials being on ground or whoever is being governing or supporting the Palestinian Palestinian state to be actually implementing. This is of course one of the yields of the recognition that we've previously spoke about. So putting this on ground, the techniques or the technicalities of the details of this plan is what's actually concerning us. Because on paper everything looks good. However, the details of it, are they going to put Israel accountable for what they've done? We have against them multiple of cases. Are they going to get punished for what they've done? Or is it just some paperwork and we'll keep it aside? The full withdrawal, will it actually be just on ground? Is it will they still be present on air in the sea? That's always the case.
To which point the withdrawal will be taking
exactly
place?
The space, how much will they keep for the fishermen to actually go and fish some food? The details are very, very, very suffocating to the people, but we trust the negotiating parties, the teams that are involved. They're not just any people, of course. They're expert in what they're doing. The details are, even if they are being not totally exposed, I believe maybe tomorrow we should have a press release. The details still are confidential, of course, but the concern is always about the implementation, the on-ground. Are the timelines very detailed? Are they specific? Who will hold who accountable? There should be always someone impartial, someone neutral, to hold both parties accountable for what's going to be implemented.
Yes, indeed. Also, on Trump plans, what about the ceasefire arrangement and the guarantees, the reconstruction support, the question of sovereignty, as you have kindly mentioned, the long-term political settlement and representation, the role of the regional actors? How do you see all these elements, which are very important and crucial in solving the crisis here, not to have the scenario being repeated again?
Despite having too many guarantors available, there is nothing guaranteed. It's been 70 plus years, you know. So there are no guarantees with them. However, we're doing and we're hoping for the best, and asking for someone external, someone neutral, to hold them accountable, to hold everyone actually accountable, because no one should find a way out. So the details of all of these discussions and all these agreements need to be put in actual timelines and actual ownership and accountability of all parties involved. The details of who's going to do what, when, what is required, of course the ceasefire and the reconstruction of the crossings, because the Rafah crossings is the main vein for all of this to actually reach the Gaza Strip. Or are you availing a different approach? Are you availing a different channel for commuting and so on? What's going to happen for the people until you actually reconstruct all of that? So too many points to be discussed. Too many points still raise concern, but again, we trust the people discussing all of that. We trust the goodwill and the good intentions in what's being made. Hopefully reaching again the full and implementation of the Palestinian statehood, not just the Palestinian government or the Palestinian whatever state that we're having currently.
What guarantees here should be given from the Israeli side after the release of hostages and detainees, as of course it is the main concern for the Israelis, of course, to face all the internal demand for the importance of the release of hostages. Yet, how do you see here the guarantees that could be given in order to prevent any further occupation from the Israeli side if they actually did withdraw from the Gaza Strip?
By the league, they should stop the expansion of the settlement spots that every day they keep on, especially in the West Bank, they keep on stealing lands. They go to whatever house, they kick people out and they just take over the place. So this is happening in the West Bank, of course, live every day, and we have seen that in the Gaza Strip, the presence on ground. And the demolition of everything from what's on the surface all the way to the infrastructure. This is what they've been doing. They want to expand their presence. So by the least, they should stop at what what they've already done, and the communication or the negotiations on ground that should have them actually retreat or withdraw back to an initial or agreed upon territory. Of course, we've always been speaking about the two-state solution, defining the Palestinian state over the borders of the 1967 borders and East Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine and so on. So by the least, we should stick to what has already been proposed and agreed on multiple of years ago. And it has always been reiterated upon. So that's the least, and this is the bare minimum where they should be put accountable for and actually start to be implemented. The international community should start actually holding them accountable, because khalas, what else is there? You got the recognition in the UN, what else do you need? Put that in action. Put that in action. Start treating Palestine as a state. Allow them to be present in such legal and international prisons.
Yes. First, we'll talk about the entry of humanitarian aid to the Strip. From your point of view, when this should start to take place, as the negotiations is starting, and they should agree on the release of hostages as a start and the ceasefire. The entry of humanitarian aid to the Strip is a must, and we have seen today a visit from the Foreign Minister of the Netherlands to the border crossing. How do you see the significance of such a visit by the Foreign Minister?
They're already at the borders almost, so maybe they finish the meetings and head back to the crossings and allow everything. It's that easy actually. What's stopping them? Everyone is on board. The recognition in the United Nations, and the presence of the United States President and his main advisors present here. What else do you need? So just say yes. And the tacticalities of things, the on-ground forces, the on-ground logistics, they're already there. They're just waiting for someone to tell them, get in.
And the opening from
of course, the Palestinian side, of course, and that has been always blocked by the Israeli forces. And of course, the bombing of that side of the crossing. Egypt has made everything ready. Everything is actually just the crossing. They just need to go over there.
And save thousands of lives.
Of course. So again, every second actually matters. Those humanitarian aid, those medical aid that has been and have been actually waiting in containers at the crossings for so long, they're rotting, they're going out of validity. So what's stopping them? Again, it's just a decision away. It's just one go ahead away, just one signature away. That's all that's stopping them. I don't think Mr. Guterres wants anything against that.
Of course.
The international community does not want anything, because we see people on the ground. Even with those negotiations happening now, still people are going throughout the whole world, going in riots, and they're going in very massive. We've seen Berlin, we've seen too many countries actually. People are on the ground. Let the aid in. Ceasefire immediately, let the aid in. That's it, simple. It doesn't take much more than this actually.
Ms. Haneen, also we have to mention here the role that Egypt could play in helping the new administration of the Gaza Strip. And what's here your opinion and the idea of the new administration that would be ruling the Gaza Strip after Hamas?
Of course, this is not new. This is maybe the second time Egypt actually takes over the Gaza Strip. Gaza Strip has previously been under the Egyptian administration for some time, helping the Palestinian government to take over and establish itself properly. So, and back then it was a major success. So this actually gives a cover, and this gives guarantee, if we're looking for guarantees, that things will go as planned or as agreed on and after these negotiations. Again, Egypt has the best, they want the best for Palestinian people and the Palestinian statehood. So, and for the region, of course. So it's not just for the benefits of it's not just something selfish. So Egypt will make sure, just like always, that this goes as planned and this goes as requested and as needed, actually. The presence of international people on the crossings would ensure that no discrimination, no violations, nothing of the negativities will happen, and the transfer or the in and out of aid and whatever construction material are required actually gets in. The outing of people coming out of Gaza for whatever needed treatments, for whatever needed recovery is required, shall of course have some process discussed and of course agreed on by all parties, because this is why they're all there. These are some of the guarantees actually to ensure that what's being discussed is actually implemented. It should be short term, of course, because Egypt also wants the statehood and the sovereignty of the Palestinian government to take over. But until the elections, the Palestinian elections take place, someone should administer, someone should manage this, the people and the land, of course.
Of course.
So we trust Egypt, of course, everyone trusts them in such administration.
Ms. Haneen, how might the ceasefire agreement change the political landscape of the Palestinian territories from your point of view?
By the least, we see some practical direction, or we see some practical steps towards peace, because there is no peace if we keep fighting people. There is no peace if we keep shooting people. So this is the first step towards reaching an utmost peace among the both states and among the region, of course. So ceasefire, we discussed then the disarmament of whatever party we were speaking of. We speak about a formal presence of policemen, formal presence of army, if we may call them army, or defense entity to be present, a proper presentation of the Palestinian people and its government, of course. So immediate ceasefire actually would further enforce or further ensure that the Israelis want the success of this negotiation and want the success of peace on both ends, inshallah.
What guarantees here are in place to ensure the lasting peace and stability under this plan?
Sticking to the plan, sticking and being accountable for whatever you do. The international community has recognized Palestine as a state. So treat it as a state. Treat Israel as a state, treat Palestine as a state. You have no...
The two-state solution, back to the political solution to the crisis.
Put it in place. Put it in place. Start dealing politically and, of course, diplomatically according to that. The sovereignty of the Palestinian state has so much under this description. This entails too many things. Do not attack, do not violate the international law. Again, the international law has been violated live on air. So this again needs to be handled somehow. This needs to be addressed, that it did not just go by just like that. Everyone can get away with whatever. So the agreement that everyone has agreed on, the negotiations, the terms, the 21 points discussed or proposed, they should be implemented. The tacticality or the technical details of this implementation need to be put in place. The international community or the international presence to ensure such the interim between what's happening and the future or the actual implementation of this needs to be put and monitored closely. The administration by the Egyptian government would also ensure such success, inshallah. So monitoring from the external auditors, monitoring of the external parties that are present should put some external factors or some external pressure on both Palestinians and Israelis to stick to what's been agreed upon. Putting the interest of the people before everyone else. People on both ends have been suffering. Palestinians and Israelis as well. We should not neglect this. This is not what they came to Israel for. They wanted peace. They're not getting it.
Unfortunately, yes. While the crisis in Gaza has deepened, the international human rights organizations referred to as the devastation and inhumane situation inside the Strip. How has the peace plan actually deal with such situation on the ground concerning the humanitarian situation?
We believe this is why they put the ceasefire as the first option or as the first condition to be met, of course. Because I cannot do anything else to the rest of the rights of the people if I keep on shooting them, if I keep on denying them security. The people are not secure by all definitions. They have no water secure, they have no food secure, they have no security by psychology as well. Throughout the day, they're just waiting to be bombed. So what rights to be discussed if every detail around the clock, all of those rights are being not just violated, they're being detained of the basic rights to breathe clean air, to drink pure water. Everything is contaminated. I'm not, by the least, everything is contaminated. So immediate ceasefire resolves so much. So start with that, put it in action, and the rest shall follow.
Finding a political solution to the crisis after of course, reaching the ceasefire and implementing the peace plan of U.S. President Donald Trump. Do you see here that the political solution to the crisis and finding a lasting solution for the crisis, not to witness a recurrence of such violations and such a genocide war from the Israeli side, to what extent here the political solution and the two-state solution and the return of the 1967 borders is becoming a must to have a lasting peace in the region?
Of course, with this recognition and with the two-state solution becoming more practical and more more likely to start appearing in the real life, it changes so much in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of the regulations that govern the whole lands and the whole governments and so on. This changes the look at the Palestinian people and the Palestinian state from some land, a state of some people, to a country, to a statehood, to sovereign. It changes the weight of such resemblance and such presence of not just the people, but also the government and the officials that represent such entity. This will change the way that the violations are treated. Before that, we're just shooting people. Now we're shooting civilians of a country. So I don't want to say just the impact, but also the weight of such violations should change, should become more alarming. I don't know what more alarming than killing people.
Of course, civilians.
But again, in the eyes of law, this is a more dominant, a more legally established, a legal foundation for all of this to be treated differently, with more seriousness, if we can say by the least.
Yeah. Ms. Haneen, the reconstruction of Gaza after the ceasefire is reached and implemented, Egypt has actually invited for a conference for the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. How do you see here the plan for the reconstruction of Gaza while the people are inside the territories?
Okay, this is something very, very tricky a little, because the land is uninhabitable, but we have people there, but we have some materialistic belongings that are there. So how to deal with all of that? Again, also the financials of such project, who's going to sponsor? So it's very also important that for those who promised to sponsor with X amounts, to provide such amounts. For those who promised to provide X materials, to provide those materials. For those who want to send in some laborers, so the laborer should also be present. And the process of either extracting the people on a temporary basis until something is rebuilt and then bringing back the people, or moving people in some territory that's cleaned and made humanly acceptable for people to live in, until the other part is somehow built. Even if we're speaking about some temporary solutions, we can have caravans. So many ideas have been brought in the picture, some of which was we bring some caravans, and of those caravans we not just present or make available houses, but also schools and such facilities that the people would require, until something more stable, or the buildings are actually put back, because the infrastructure is very damaged. So you need something short term until we reach the longer term. Something very important, or something that further how can we say, ensure or something that further guarantees the success of all of this. And of course, congratulations to not just only the Egyptian people, but to the whole Arab world. Dr. Khalid Al-Anani, of course, winning and heading the UNESCO 55 to 57 out of 57 votes. This is massive. This is massive,
and a great honor.
Of course, and this really shows the impact and the importance and the significance of the Egyptian presence on all grounds, of course.
Yes.
He's very keen on reserving and preserving the Palestinian history, of course. So this is one way of also further ensuring that a long-term resolution or a long-term conservation of the Palestinian people and their rights and their laws is being made.
We hope, of course, these negotiations and the talks would end in a very positive way for the Palestinians. Ms. Haneen Abu Shanab, member of the General Union of Palestinian Women in Cairo, thank you so much for your precious input. It was a real pleasure. Our dear viewers, we're going to come to the end of the daily debate for tonight. Many thanks for watching.